Back here, first things first, and we're going viral. James Conner had a solid day replacing Le'Veon Bell with 192 total yards and 2 touchdowns. But what he did not have was a solid hair day. Check that out. I actually asked Nick, I'm like, that must have been some sort of hazing punishment.
Nah, man,
Nick
he's doing
said,
that on
nope,
purpose.
That's his hair.
I don't get it. I don't get any part of...
that's...
Oh, come on, man.
That's a hazing. That is not CC.
I like how they left. They gave Jenna sideburns. The best part is Jenna's sideburns on it. Oh, man. Listen, I gotta learn from James Conner. He's gonna get more of a speaking role if he has more performances like this with Le'Veon Bell out. But I never seen a hairdo quite like that. It's one thing like we've heard business in the front, party in the back.
Nick.
What up, C?
Don't do it.
Don't do it. That's
Please. Just keep going.
Just don't do it.
Next.
Okay.
All right, time now for stories to start your morning. We listen to C. The Bucs surprised the Saints with a 48-40 win behind 417 yards passing and 5 total touchdowns from Ryan Fitzpatrick. C, what'd you take away from this game?
Be careful. I've seen this movie before. All of a sudden, the superhero turns into Freddy Krueger now. Be careful. Fitzy for a week or two, that's about it. I mean, this is not going to, he can't continue, all right? I wish him well, but this won't continue.
But this was also, though, the most shocking result of the NFL weekend. The Saints were not just the biggest favorite to lose, they were the biggest favorite league-wide. People that are in those suicide or survivor pools, about half of those people got eliminated the first week because people thought the Saints were going to beat the Bucs. To me, I give Fitzpatrick credit. He has 1 or 2 of these a year typically, maybe not quite to this level, but he has the ability to have a few really big games each year that he plays. But the more concerning note is the Saints. What was the difference between the Saints last year and the 3 previous years where they missed the playoffs? Their defense went from a bottom 5 defense each and every year to a top 10 defense. Yesterday, it looked like that bottom 5 defense once again.
All right, 49ers at Vikings. Jimmy Garoppolo struggled in his season debut, throwing 3 picks in the loss. CC, what did you make of Garoppolo's struggles?
I'm not surprised at all. I knew their wide receivers couldn't threaten them down the field. I knew they'd have problems. Their front would have problems blocking their defensive front. Jimmy Garoppolo, it's going to be interesting as we go through the season to see how he recovers from this. You know, what's his true ability? Because I still believe that they need a big-time receiver. They got salary cap room. I wish they would have gone out and gotten someone. Even someone like Dez Bryant. Seems like the organization doesn't want Dez Bryant, but they need a number 1 receiver. All right, so Jimmy Garoppolo gave him the money, but they still haven't given him the receiver that he needs.
You're absolutely right on that, and Jimmy G was facing arguably the best, certainly the best defense, I believe, overall in the NFC and maybe in the entire NFL. And if people were watching this game, as poorly as Garoppolo had played, they were right there. And he had what would have been an enormous play. It looked like a 50-plus yard play to his tight end. Perfectly placed ball that was just dropped. And on the very next play, it goes pick 6 the other way. That was the turning point in the game. But after a impeccable, undefeated resume as a starter from New England and San Francisco, he got a taste of reality yesterday, courtesy of the Minnesota Vikings.
Watch some of the words coming out of the Vikings locker room. Daniel Hunter said Jimmy Garoppolo was scared of the rush. So let's watch and see what we see the rest of the season.
Okay. It's interesting.
All right, moving on to the Patriots and the Texans. Rough one for Deshaun Watson, back after missing most of last year, completing only half his passes and turned the ball over twice in the loss. Nick, were you surprised by Watson's efforts?
Listen, we knew he was going to regress somewhat. We don't think he's going to regress to this level. This was a really bad game, and he owned it after the game. What, to me, you saw was a player who was in his first game back from an ACL injury. There were sometimes some seams where last year he would have taken it and run. Yesterday he didn't seem as comfortable. His accuracy was off more so than any game I saw last year. Now, last year he turned the ball over as well, but he made up for it with some dimes to the end zone. Yesterday that wasn't the case. I'm not selling my Deshaun Watson stock, but it was a very tough first game of the year for him.
No, you don't have to sell your stock, but you need to give him a stock tip and tell him to get his feet set. You see him, he thinks he knows more about pro football and thinks he can complete the ball. He doesn't have a strong enough arm to be able to throw the ball on the run at this point in his career. So his fundamentals to me got very, very weak. I was surprised that he talked about he went into the game with a lack of energy. That's a little puzzling to me. Opening day, going to New England. He went to New England last year, played great. So that little tidbit coming out of the game was a little troubling for me why the quarterback didn't have energy, but his fundamentals were poor.
All right, finally, Giants and Jags. This one was billed as Odell Beckham versus Jalen Ramsey. Odell got the best of that one. He caught 11 passes for 111 yards, and Saquon Barkley had a nice NFL debut. But the Giants fell to the Jaguars 20-15. After the game, Beckham talked about the offensive struggles.
We put ourselves behind the chain, and it was tough. And that's kind of what I just tried to, preach to the offense about is not getting behind and not putting ourselves in bad situations. We're already going against a great defense. We don't need to help them anymore.
We won, so I'm good. We're going home 1-0. They're going home 1-1. And like I kind of kept saying, we knew it was going to be a show. We knew it was going to be a good matchup, but it's not all that the game is about. That's not what the game of football is about. It's me versus another guy, one man versus another man. It's about 11 guys versus their 11. See who can do better. Our 11, we were able to come out on top.
It was fun to get out there and play in my first NFL game. It was a dream of mine, but I feel like that we left it out there. We could do a little bit more as a team to finish the game and win the game, but you got to give credit to Jacksonville and that team over there. They're a heck of a defense and a heck of a team, and we got to continue to grow from this game and get better.
All right, CC, was this game more about what the Jaguars did on offense or on defense, rather, or what the Giants weren't able to do on offense, namely from Eli Manning?
Well, the Jags are a great defense. And I thought the Giants would have problems. I didn't think the Giants are going to win this game. So the result, well, no, I'm not surprised. I thought they'd have a hard time running the ball consistently against the Jags front. And I knew if they got one-dimensional and started dropping Eli back, they would have a hard time protecting him. I thought the Odell-Jalen matchup was a good matchup. The one reason why Jalen, it's going to be hard for him to have success against someone like Odell is because what Jalen does when he travels around to guard the best receiver is he is very good at bump and run. But because Odell is so quick off the line of scrimmage, I would probably say the most dangerous to bump, you can get a big play if you miss the bump and run. So the coaches decided to have Jalen play some off a little bit, which is not his strong suit. His technique is not always very, very good, and he's a long strider. So Odell was able to become a possession receiver in this game, give the Giants what they needed, but he just didn't get the support. The people who talk about Eli, that offensive line, they spent a lot of money on that left tackle. I had told people before, if you listen to my comments, this offensive line is not solidified. They are not a powerful offensive line, and they will still struggle. The other wide receivers, Ingram and Sterling Shepard, they have to make contributions. So when you don't have that, the Giants are going to not be able to score enough points. That offensive line, though, as you watch them throughout the season, just watch them. Watch and see how they develop. The right tackle, Eric Flowers, is still a huge question mark as far as their offensive line.
The Giants' offensive line is the ongoing story of the season, and I don't think anyone believes it's fair to judge them based off a game against Jacksonville, because Jacksonville makes a lot of offensive lines look bad, but it's concerning when that, along with the injuries, was the reason their season went so sideways last year. What's so frustrating or disappointing for the Giants is your defense did its job. How do you beat the Jags? Well, there's a handful of ways. One of them is force Blake Bortles into a turnover. Going into yesterday's game, the Jags were 2-18 in their last 20 games where Bortles had an interception. They did that. They shut Jacksonville out defensively in the second half. Jacksonville had 7 drives, 7 punts in the second half, only 1 third-down conversion. But Jacksonville got the pick 6 on Eli, which, yes, that was in pressure. That's a big mistake. And Saquon had a huge play, and Odell a few times got open deep, and Eli missed him. It was a collective effort of failure by the Giants offense, of the offensive line, and by Eli. But this is concerning for them because this was a game that was there to win. The defense defense looked much more like the 2016 Giants defense than the 2017 Giants defense. I thought the defense played an excellent game, particularly in the second half, and they still weren't able to muster enough points. It's a frustrating way to open the season for the Giants because Jacksonville didn't play their best game. Fournette got injured early. Let's not leave that out. He had to leave the game. They had to rely on Yeldon, and you still couldn't score enough to win.
And that's one of the reasons why the Giants are successful. All right, the Jags don't have any wide receivers. Fournette, their number one offensive player, he's out the second half. Of course, the Giants should have shut him out the second half. So let's not think the Giants defense is good going against offensive personnel that is some of the worst in the league.
All right, new topic. Let's move on to the Dallas Cowboys now after weeks of analyzing, and some might go as far as to say, oh,